situations. Has there been a point in time in your life when you were trying to achieve something, or in reality many things, and the harder you tried, the more it seemed to get away from you? You did everything by the book. You had a well-defined goal, you had a plan, you drove your teams to meet the deadlines, and you also managed company politics. Sounds familiar? Yes, for sure. We have all been there many times. Now, have you observed someone around you who just makes things look easy, walks on water, takes on tough challenges, seemingly impossible goals, and they all seem to work out all the time? I know you have wondered how that happens. I have many times. We face these challenges in both our personal and professional lives all the time. I'm Gunjan Goel, and I'd like you to think a little bit about your lives and this seemingly contradictory notion that to go fast, you should actually slow down. This idea seems quite strange, that to be able to move faster, to achieve our objectives faster, we should actually slow down. How can that really be? As a kid, we have all heard the story about the tortoise and the hare, but it's not the same thing in the real world, or is it? Well, let's explore. Our lives have become all about being able to move faster, achieve more with less, efficiency, productivity, to the point it is showing up in our personalities as we tend to jam our calendars from morning to evening, looking really busy. We talk faster, and well, in New York, they even walk faster. At Cobham, during one of our annual CEO conferences, we were talking about culture and teamwork. And we use this video about the Ferrari pit stops as an example. Let's take a quick look at this video and we'll come back and talk about it.
But Holland comes in for a pit stop. Time to refuel and change tires. Lou Moore himself changes the tires. Only 4 crew members, including the driver, are allowed to work on the car. It's a tense time. Holland stays in his seat, anxious to get away. Let's watch. The tires are changed at last. A crewman polishes the windshield as Holland moves away just 67 seconds after he stopped.
Pretty amazing comparison, wouldn't you agree? Something that used to take 67 seconds in 1950 takes about 2 seconds today. And they are even trying to reduce that even more. Granted, more people are involved today, and it is really not an apples to apples comparison, but think about this. What does it take to get roughly 20 people to get something done in less than 2 seconds? Pretty remarkable. A lot of work goes into planning and preparing for each of these races. These teams practice hundreds of times in the season, taking an objective, the execution of which can result into mass chaos. They study each movement very, very carefully and get it right every single time. Consistency and predictability are important for success. That does not mean that we are not innovating or doing the same things over and over. What it means is that regardless of the challenge in front of us, with varying degrees of unknowns, we can still come out winning on the other side. Over the last 25 years, I've been at companies like Honeywell, CSC, Cobham, and also my two startups, one in technology and the other in healthcare, which was also a technology startup, where I did all kinds of different things, failing at times, learning from them with the intent to deliver consistently. And I did because I spent time in analyzing what's working and what's not working, and how to do it better next time. As part of these roles, I also got the opportunity to live and work in many countries like the US, China, Philippines, Singapore, UK, India, and others. So I've had my fair share of challenges and had to find ways to deliver consistently. Add the culture piece to it, and my list of challenges keep on growing. How we get things done in the US does not work the same way in China. Same with Singapore versus Philippines, UK versus India. I'll share a story. One time I was in Shanghai at one of our business locations, and I was launching a transformation program across APAC, starting with this joint venture we had in Shanghai. People in the room represented all functions: finance, IT, manufacturing, supply chain, order management, etc. I was asked to say a few words to kick off the meeting. So I started to provide an overview of the program, its importance to the local business, and also to the larger company. As I continued, I saw people getting really anxious, really anxious, and then they started whispering amongst each other. I looked at my local trusted partner from IT, let's call him Jim. Jim got up and started speaking in Chinese. People listened at first, then they started asking Jim questions. And before I knew, the room got pretty loud with people speaking all over each other. I shook my head. This is not how this was supposed to go. Suddenly there was pin drop silence in the room. I looked at Jim and asked, what happened? Jim said, we're all good, ready to go. I was speechless. Till date, I still don't know what happened there, but we got tremendous support from that business, and we completed that program very successfully. I learned an important lesson. From there on out, every kickoff was done by someone who was local to the site and spoke in the local language. I learned early on that I need to manage all the inputs carefully to be able to successfully deliver consistently. Management of all these inputs require careful planning before I can get to execution. The planning helps me reduce time and risk during execution, which in turn allows me to achieve my objectives faster. Hopefully you see where I'm going with this. These experiences are what taught me that this is not such a strange concept. Taking time to plan things out can actually help you go to market sooner, deliver benefits faster. Let me share another story. One time I was in a meeting room to discuss about a large-scale engineering investigation that was happening on one of our products. One of our products was failing and it could cause serious injuries. I was a bit early to the meeting and I was sitting there in the conference room. I noticed one of those management-style pictures on the wall. I'm sure many of you have seen this. As I'm reading this, the message is easy to read, but do we really get it? One of my mentors used to say, Gunjan, there is dirt everywhere. You just have to dig for it. And if you're not finding it, then you're not digging deep enough. It is so very true. During the meeting, I felt that many in the team just wanted to get to the finish line, just get to the answers. Maybe they were ahead of me in their thought process, maybe. But to be on the same page, I started asking some really simple and dumb questions. I'm pretty good with those. I started with the what, the why, the how, which really made some people quite anxious. I was the P&L leader for this business, so everyone carried on. The meeting went over by a few hours. As we dug deeper, we started to unravel areas that clearly surprised some in the room. It was an aha moment for many. If we do not bring diversity of thought and challenge our assumptions, we may only be just skimming the surface of the problem. Identifying root cause, especially for recurring issues, is critical, else we keep adding work to our pile. The only way to really move forward is to get things done correctly the first time and have efficient processes so we have more time and resources to properly plan and solve the challenges for tomorrow. When I joined Cobham, they were fighting fires on many fronts. Business environment was deteriorating, a multi-million-dollar transformation program where 90% of the budget was spent on a blueprint and the first go live alone. And for that business itself, the on-time delivery fell from 85% to 13% within the first 2 months. A cybersecurity remediation that required millions of dollars, a $1.5 billion acquisition to integrate, and to top it all, an absent IT function, at least in the eyes of the business. Now, I'm new in my first week and I'm ready to go, make things happen. My first day, I heard that our Orchard Park, New York site is struggling to make deliveries after their ERP go live from a couple of months ago. I asked the ERP team on what's going on. I'm ready to go. The team told me that they are not seeing any tickets come through. So issues are likely with internal business processes, maybe. At the same time, I heard the local GM was sending distress flares to the CEO. The ERP team was adamant that the solution is working and they are not seeing any major issues. Now, by this time, I had already deployed ERP and many ERPs at 35 to 40 businesses myself, and in many countries. I've seen a lot that could go wrong with these programs. As they're talking to me, my brain is churning on where I have faced this before. What are all the failure modes that could be at play here? I told the team that regardless of the tickets, we should go to the site and assess situation on the ground. The team didn't like it first, but didn't have a choice. The following week, we sat in one conference room with the general manager and his leadership team to understand in great detail on what is really happening. I saw tears in that room on both sides. There were a number of challenges that mostly everyone was aware of during the implementation, but somehow failed to acknowledge and action to the point where something could be done about them ahead of the go live. It took us the next 10 months to carefully uncover everything from scope, solution design, business intelligence, culture and training, business process re-engineering, data migration, etc., to get them back over to the 80% on-time delivery by the end of 2015. In some ways, what a wasted effort. Should have never been in that situation. But the silver lining was that this team had learned the hard way what had gone wrong and what good looks like. Don't let your failures go to waste. Talk about them. Take needed actions to make sure they never happen again. Hopefully, these examples showcase the value of a methodical process to go from an idea to plan to execution, and that it can really help accelerate delivery of the goals and objectives. Let's do a bit of deep dive on the following areas, which, if managed well, can really help you move faster in your roles. As a CIO, there are a million things to go after. Keeping the lights on, IT compliance, audits, people issues, projects that are behind, projects that need to be done, but there is no money left, unhappy customers, list goes on. It gets overwhelming very fast. Now our choices are to jam our calendars from morning to evening, make a mad dash at everything, or shut everything down, just focus on keeping the lights on, or find another job. But guess what? It's the same there. None of these are really good options. The problem may be that we don't really know which way to go because we are not seeing the full picture. So there may be a fourth option here. We slow down to do a full situational analysis by taking stock of everything, spend a little time organizing, sorting it, prioritizing it, and we may start to see a picture. 3-4 days of investment in this exercise can go a long way. We can create a sorted 3 buckets. Fires we need to fight today, capabilities we need to deliver tomorrow, and the foundational investments we need to make to achieve both of the above objectives. As leaders, we have to find a way to focus and invest in the future while taking care of the present. That's the job. If we are too much in the middle of the storm, we may not see the big picture at all. We have to take a step back to see what is happening. This image is fascinating. By the way, I tried to verify. It seems to be a real picture of the Starlings information. Wow. Anyways, the work I drove at Orchard Park was part of a tactical decision to fight a fire, something that was material to the overall company. More foundational investments will need careful analysis and planning. So I had to take time to step back and draw our big picture in the midst of competing priorities. Unless we can see the big picture, we will not be able to get to the organization to focus on what matters today and tomorrow. By the way, stepping back to look at the big picture is not a one-off exercise. It has to be done 2-3 times in the year. And the best time to start this work is really when you're thinking about the next year, next 2 years, typically as part of your strategic planning process. Bring your leadership together. Take 2-3 days to see where you are and where you want to go as an IT function. Having an understanding of the big picture in a company helps. Translate that picture into IT strategy and roadmap that will take you from where you are today to where you need to go. It needs to be something that the people can see, feel, and touch. Much of what you will have in the strategy and roadmap will need detailed plans around them for execution. Focus on program and project management and associated processes to build these plans. Invest some time thinking about how to execute these plans. How will you measure progress? What will be the governance process that will help you understand whether you're at the right point at the right time? This image is from ISECG, International Space Exploration Coordination Group. It's a group of 14 space agencies working together on space exploration. This is a dream in some ways, this picture, on what to accomplish over the next several years. Imagine the level of plans that would need to go across the many space organizations to execute this. Start thinking about gaps in your people, process, technology equation that will get in the way of doing this work. Find some early wins that can start to create confidence in the business, and this will also give you the opportunity to start building relationships. Take your plan to a roadshow. Get feedback from the business. Adjust the plan as needed. Once it is settled, then one of the most important steps is to be able to tell a story to the organization. Communicate. Communicate often. And when you think you have done enough, communicate some more. Many times we feel really great about what we are doing, but customers are still very unhappy. It does not matter what we do, they just can't seem to stop the complaining. Why is that? 2 possible reasons come to mind, could be more. IT objectives and organizational objectives may not be aligned. The business may not be fully appreciating what it is we are working towards because we are not communicating well. Sometimes we tend to communicate to business leadership, thinking the message will flow down, but in reality, it may not. And often it does not. So it may leave the vast majority of the organization wondering, what is it we do? No wonder most of the people think of IT as a group that supports their computers and mobiles, and that's it. It is very important for CIOs and the IT leadership teams to drive business alignment and business lingo across the function. We need to speak the same language and feel their issues firsthand. Then and only then, we will be in a position to set the IT strategy and an agenda that aligns to deliver business outcomes. Many times we also carry too many initiatives that indirectly help the business, but both the capability and benefits are not easily visible to the business. We need to find ways to balance some of those foundational projects. They are extremely important, but we need to keep the business interested too. And so they need to be able to see the progress that benefits them directly. Think global, act local. I often say this. We often have many stakeholders and businesses we are supporting. Many of them have competing priorities, to be honest. Many of them want to do their own thing, which may or may not be good for the overall company. Be on the lookout and bring people together to find a balance between the global optimum and the needs for the local business. This image I found on Google, and it was very fascinating. It shows what a burger looks like in many different parts of the world, and it is customized to local taste and still allows McDonald's to be a burger company. I have rolled out Concur across 10,000 employees globally at Cobham, spent less than 100,000 doing so, and saved over 7 million pounds in cash last year, in all of last year. It started with one business requesting the capability. We gave it to all of them and had huge success. In another instance, we tried to bring businesses together, all of which wanted a QMS system, but everyone had their reasons for wanting a different one. Relationships are what makes difficult conversations easier. But to form these relationships, we have to make sure the business understands IT and vice versa. Getting this right creates a positive working environment where we move forward as one company. We break barriers together and we achieve our goals faster. We need an army to go to war. To deliver business outcomes, we need a team. We live and die by being in teams these days. But what does the word team stand for? Now, I didn't know this, but one of my fourth graders told me once, it stands for Together Everyone Achieves More. So true. Things will never improve if left to chance. It takes people to work harder, or even better, to work smarter, to achieve the seemingly impossible goals. As an IT leader, we need to have a solid team that can take the vision to reality. However, developing people is very hard work. So early on, you may have to be more direct in your approach, but organizational design and leadership development should be high on your agenda so you're able to scale your efforts. Many times our teams are not visible, or it may be that the organization is so large it is hard to tell who does what. An efficient organization model is important so that not only customers can understand us, but also important for our own employees so they can understand their roles. At Cobham, one of our challenges was that IT was simply embedded in the businesses and could never bring the scale of experience and capabilities that were needed for every site. Just not possible. We transitioned IT to a service and portfolio-based horizontal function. This gave us global owners who had end-to-end responsibility for their portfolio of services. That is, keeping the lights on, selling and implementing new capabilities, retiring applications, business relationships, etc. Leaders started to show up because as the organizational model became clearer, people also started to understand their roles better. Money makes things happen. We have to know what we are spending on. We say we do, but do we? The business often complains about the size of chargebacks, and they often have no detail that goes along with it. As we look to balance short-term and long-term needs, we need to aggressively understand our budgets and make decisions to repurpose spend, because asking for net new spend for the future is rarely an option. At Cobham, I had heard something early on that there is this 9-figure, 10-year large SI contract for a global ERP hosting and support. At that point in time, that contract supported one instance of Oracle for one live site. It didn't take rocket science on my part to figure out that they are paying too much. And it was one of the things I wanted to rebid right away. Initially, there was a lot of pushback because many of the people who were involved with the initial contract were still around. Also, there was some significant work involved to switch providers. Anyways, I rebid the contract and migrated the service to another provider. In the process, we saved several $1 million per year. And those savings were material to Cobham's financial performance as well. One contract is all it took. Over the last 5 years, we have reduced our IT budget by over 30%, but have delivered more capabilities to the business year over year, making our environment more secure, agile, capable, compliant, you name it. It was made possible through renegotiating large line items in the budget, stopping work on others that were not in alignment with our strategy, and redirecting funds to those efforts that directly helped the business in both short and long term. I'm sure you have some large line items in your budgets. Make sure every budget line is clearly aligned with your IT strategy. One of the CIOs used to say, I got no money to give, but if you can get me my money back within the year plus some, then I have all the money for you. Work closely with your CFO and your CEO to ensure alignment. Make decisions about OPEX versus CAPEX. This is an important process for you to find ways to invest into your future. I remember one time our business's environment was struggling. The CFO asked all the functions to help out. In IT, I really needed to stand up a colo data center to address some serious cybersecurity issues for our North America sites. Both my CEO and my CFO were close enough to my strategy that they understood the importance of this one program. We spoke briefly about budget cuts, and even though this was a significant single line investment, they supported it. We have all experienced situations where our ideas are constantly shot down. We seem to face headwinds in every conversations. Sometimes it is even tough getting our own team to follow. All of this leads to surprises, missed expectations, delayed schedules, and chaos. The challenge may be that we are missing an important piece about how to lead and influence. Times are changing. Many surveys and studies are showing that people value real connection. Title may get someone to follow direction in the short term, but real influence is through relationship of trust. As a leader, it is extremely important that we have this connection with our key stakeholders and employees. We have to be transparent and consistent in our communication. We have to create a sense of community that allows everyone around us to feel they are working towards a common goal. Then, and only then, they may be able to execute their objectives with clarity and passion. People want to see an authentic leader. Many CIOs restrict themselves to the headquarters and are not easily approachable. Those were the old days of management. Today, people are influenced by leaders who they can trust and are able to relate to. Show courage in your decision making and encourage your teams to do the same thing. I have been fortunate that over the years I've been thrown into situations that were extremely challenging, and I often had no clue how to even begin. But I had one thing, I had a great support from my management team. One time I got an opportunity to lead a large program in Asia. Literally nothing was in place other than the direction, go there, own the program, do it. I landed in Philippines as the first and the only member of the team with a target go live in 5 months. I didn't want to fail. I could not fail. I chose to take a position that I will leave nothing to chance and will own all moving parts of the mobilization for swift execution. I handpicked consultants, picked housing, rental cars, places to eat, many other things to avoid having any confusion when the team showed up. In parallel, I worked on the project plan with the local business to make sure they understood what needed to be done and they are not going to push back. The team showed up and we had a great mobilization event where we did hit the ground running. But it didn't stop there. It took working with each team member at work, over lunch, dinner, at the bars to build a relationship and to fully create a sense of community. This team went on to work for me over the next 4 years, traveling to places like Singapore, Malaysia, China, many places in China, Suzhou, Nanjing, Shanghai, delivering some of the very successful programs that I've ever been part of. The investments in Philippines had paid off. Build authentic relationships. Build partnerships. Let's talk about partnerships and how they can help us achieve the impossible feats. Let's see this short video about one of the space shuttle launches.
Wow.
Still see it?
Yep,
Awesome.
it's in the camera.
Yeah.
Look how fast that's going, man. Look how fast.
Are you getting it on video?
Yep.
Yeah, folks, space shuttle's
HD
going off the
video.
right side of the aircraft right now. Those of you on the right side of the aircraft, you can see the space
Wow.
shuttle. Those of you on the left side of the aircraft, you can probably see people on the right side of the aircraft looking at the space shuttle.
That's incredible.
Come on, they're right, buddy. That's great.
Now listen, we don't want to have anybody complain because we were late. See, y'all got to see that. Then you can complain because we were late. Got it? All right. Drinks are on the house, too.
Truly inspiring. The Space Shuttle program was supported by over 1,500 suppliers, and it took all of them to come together to make magic like this happen over 135 shuttle missions. Suppliers are an essential tool when it comes to creation of agile IT. While technology has become simpler, for sure, it is also changing so quickly that it is simply not possible to carry all the needed skills in-house and then keep those skills updated over time. Companies that tend to do everything internally may not be able to get the needed skills, and sometimes in a certain geography. On the flip side, companies that tend to outsource a lot get surprised more because they lose the sense of ownership and progress, leading to surprises, which further leads to chaos and change requests. It is very important for CIOs to think about what is core and what is not. And it is not just the IT strategy that helps you with that debate. It is also the kind of company you are and where you are going. Are you a traditional organic growth type company, or do you grow through acquisitions? The businesses, are they fairly autonomous, or do they work together a lot? All of these play into coming up with a great supplier strategy. The other thing to remember in these partnerships is that everyone needs to feel like they won, or else you are constantly dealing with a supplier that is not happy with your business. It may not mean much to them, or they may be simply too big. Your internal teams will often tell you that they can do the work better than the suppliers. It is not that they cannot, but the suppliers don't just bring quality work to the table. They also allow you to do so many other things. They take skills in and out on short notice, provide coverage in a certain geography. They are not 8 to 5, and if they really care for your business, then they make the impossible happen. So each of these partnerships have to be nurtured and may take your personal attention to get to a productive stage. Having a great supply base can really accelerate the overall performance of IT, and by leveraging this model, we have a greater chance to address both short-term objectives while investing in long-term at the same time. I have had some great suppliers over the years where they started quite small in some cases and ended up acquiring multi-billion-dollar companies. It may take some time to develop these partnerships, but they can definitely accelerate the pace of overall change. We need to be able to tell whether we are making the right kind of progress. There is no point slowing down, building all the plans, getting the team started, and then poof, nothing, or missed deadlines, actions falling through the cracks, tickets to the roof. For each program, we should have a top-level view and a detailed project plan so we can see major milestones and whether we are making the right kind of progress. Keep it simple. This is a picture that depicts high-level milestones. This is just to depict the concept. You can have a picture like this for each of your major programs in your function and then review it periodically as part of your normal program governance. Having the picture at the top level with key milestones help. But how do you make sure you are really not getting surprised all the time? Because you will be if a good measurement system is not in place to manage each of the IT work streams. Progress does not happen by itself. It has to be managed. Culture, trust, team are all enablers. Here is an example of what I have used for many years to develop a line of sight for my programs. I recently published a paper about 8 keys to successful transformation programs. You can get the link from my LinkedIn profile. Please read it, as I guarantee that if you can manage those 8 things, you will never fail at any program again. One of the things I talk about in that paper is that there will always be a change to the plan. It is the nature of the work we are doing. I know a lot of leaders worry about when they hear that, but that's the reality. We can acknowledge it, support the team, or act surprised, penalize the team. Choice is ours. We are not in a repeat manufacturing type business. A lot of what we do is new work and has unique variables around company, culture, scope, maturity of processes, change appetite. Therefore, we need tools that can help us build an initial line of sight and then provide proactive feedback when we are starting to get off track, giving us the opportunity to recover. All this while continuing to maintain a line of sight to the finish line. This chart has full disclosure on dates we started with, which ones have changed. There is also a governance process behind it which measures each of my programs across 24 dimensions that have a set criteria for each phase gate. It helps the team to understand whether the program or the project is at the right point at the right time in the project timeline. Here is another tool that my team uses to build line of sight for our programs. It allows us to put multiple pieces of information on a single chart. Plan, progress, steering committee level issues, early starts, late finishes, ownership, etc. It's all on this chart. It is a communication chart that the team uses with the business teams to help everyone understand where the progress is as expected and where we are behind and why and what are the next milestones that we need to work together on. It's agile, it's flexible, it forces the project manager and the team to think through where we really are versus having a tool spit it out where no one understands what went into building it. It is critical that we manage work. It requires careful upfront planning on everything we do so that execution is so much smoother. And it involves less rework. Thinking through the complexities of our objectives helps us plan better, which results in faster execution. Time spent in planning is time gained in execution. Going slow does tend to help us deliver faster. This is an area we are sometimes hesitant about. Some may see it as money we can save, while others just want to move on to the next thing. Celebrating successes and learning from our failures is something that should never be ignored. We will continue to do well on things we have always done well on. It is the areas that are new to us that pose the greatest threat for us. Celebrating successes re-energizes the team and they appreciate the fact that you care, that the company cares. This also furthers the culture and relationships amongst the team, something you will need for the next challenge. Let's talk a bit about failures. It is not if, but when they will happen. We tend to hide failures under the rug and act surprised when we fail at those things again. Our efforts always are to never face failures, or if they happen, then hope they happen early so there is swift recovery. It is critical for the teams and the leadership to understand the health of the programs we have to deliver. If we instill fear in the team that failures lead to consequences, then guess what happens? Closets start to fill up. Let's also talk about lessons learned here. We should learn from them, right? But do we? What do we do with lessons learned today is not a useful exercise at all. A complete waste of time in my view. Now, before I start getting emails on this, what I mean is that we gather lessons learned and put them in a nice lesson learned database. Now, what do we do with that database? Pretty much nothing. Lessons should be gathered and immediately applied to your ways of working. Service delivery, communications, execution of programs, whatever is it you're doing, apply to them. Don't let them sit and starve. Embed them in your processes. Then publish something to the rest of the organization, what you learned and what you did about it. Communicate. The one example I have of this is the project management framework I use to run our programs with. I have so much confidence in this process and these tools I use that we can deliver the most impossible and complex programs of any kind and deliver its objectives guaranteed. This framework includes many tools from almost 20 years of work. But that's not the reason why they are valuable. The reason they are valuable is because 20 years worth of successes and failures are built into them. That's why they are valuable. In closing, see the big picture. This seemingly contradictory notion does really work. We have to start by drawing the big picture to understand where we are, where we need to go. Spend time validating and adjusting this view periodically during the year. Build a plan. Tell a story. Chaos leads to more chaos. The only way to deal with chaos is to make sure you have a robust plan and associated governance processes around it. It will save you hundreds of hours in execution, as your teams will be super clear on what needs to be accomplished, why it matters to the organization, and when does it need to be delivered. Run IT as a business. The IT function has to fully understand what is it we are supporting. We have to be close enough to the business so we can also be part of the solution. Cross-pollinate by hiring people from other functions and have IT people take on business roles as part of their development. Think global, act local. All of this will help IT get better at being a partner to the business and will allow business to understand IT at the same time. Build your team. You cannot do it alone. We cannot even fight fires alone. Invest time in building leaders at all levels. Give them opportunities that will make them uncomfortable. Expect more. Provide constructive feedback. At some point, the crowd will take the shape of a cohesive team that is in sync, and that is when we have a high-performing team that is solving challenges together. Follow the money. Money makes things possible. Every dollar saved is dollar that can be invested into something more meaningful. And if we don't have a use for it, then it could go straight to company's bottom line. Build strong partnerships with the CFO function. Show courageous and authentic leadership. Don't lead by title. Be an authentic leader who is always consistent, transparent, supportive, and values commitments. Instill courage in your culture so that people are fearless and can take on aggressive objectives. Build partnerships. Build partnerships to create a more agile IT. Help your teams understand what's core to us and what's not. Similar to any relationship, it does take both parties to constantly work together to create a solid and mutually beneficial partnership. Keep at it. Maintain line of sight. At the end of the day, only results matter. I'll again say, only results matter. Work has to be managed. Have a measurement system that helps the team understand where they are and where they are at the right point at the right time. The plan may be a bit vague to begin with, but time should bring more clarity. And if you're not seeing it, then the team's not working on the right stuff. Plan well so execution is so much smoother. Celebrate successes and failures. Very important. Celebrate your successes and failures so nothing ends up in the closet. Because you know it will. None of this is new to us. It is just that we have to often take some time to sit down and sort through our thoughts, get them aligned, be able to tell a compelling story. It is much easier to get people on board as well, along with a much faster execution of the plan. Here's a great memory from a program we ran that generated almost $10 million in business benefits. The team really took on the message, go slow to go fast. Thank you very much.